Hello. Okay, so ClairCartography, the art of blueprint integration transmission. I have been getting the ping to do more start cultivating live transmissions. Another aspect of multidimensional community weaving, and I had one scheduled for last night, June 11th. Today is June 12th, and I didn't get any sign-ups, but I still felt guided to show up anyway. A phrase, gradient aura. The gradient aura has been coming through for quite a bit recently, and when I recorded this live, funny thing, the sun was still out and I was utilizing the natural light, and I got pretty into the transmission, and by the end of the channel, by the end of the transmission, it was pretty dark. Yes, I could have gotten up and turned a light on, but I did not. Anyway, when I went through, once the live was uploaded, I just did a quick drag with the cursor. What's it called? The mouse? I don't know. And it looked like a gradient, it started light and then got darker, but yeah, so it was pretty synchronistic the way it sort of worked itself out in the lighting. Anyway, so I was deciding what to do with this, and I'm actually going to keep this as part of what I'm calling triadic transmissions. So this is the YouTube portion happening right now. I'm almost finished editing the article portion on Substack, and then the live that I recorded, because I kept it in unlisted. The link will be accessible on Patreon for the overflow. So if you're a member, you'll have access to it. If not, it will be available for purchase. And really what this wound up coming through for the Patreon, the overflow, I'm taking a pause. Yeah, these transmissions, and especially the way it came through last night, it's a way to reignite dormant codes, dormant sparks within your own blueprint, within your own auric field. So yeah, whether it's dormant and or already active and just a confirmation, an activation, expansion, right? It's always something that's already within us in some way, and it's just meant to mirror that back. And yeah, so that is the intention for sure. And I wanted to tap more deeply into ClairCartography, clear mapping, and just sort of touch on some things that came through the article and through the overflow on Patreon, and just how I've been working out this and fleshing this out. I've also been working with Gemini and just typing in my stream of consciousness and all of my own words to kind of bring through my own reflections that, sometimes it's a bit more challenging. Maybe some of you experience this, for me to synthesize my own, we all need a mirror in some way. So sometimes. Yeah. I want to just take a moment. I felt this like wave of in the forehead, like in the mind's eye area. The best way I can describe it is like a wave of fluidity, but if you watch a wave like get to its highest peak and then crash, it was almost like that crash feeling. So some of you may be going through that sensation. So ClairCartography, you can look at it as like a meta framework. And the art of integrated divination is a phrase that started to birth through the overarching framework of ClairCartography. And the idea of like synthesizing the golden thread of whatever blueprint and map it is that you be tapping into. So whether it's your own personal blueprints, when we look at like collective different like planetary epochs, different divination systems. So it's basically like a lot of my inspiration. Actually, I realized when I was tuning into the channel yesterday, a good example, not like I'm comparing myself to this person, just the idea of the framework, just to make that clear. I've always been really fascinated with Helllllo Blavatsky, and I've had visions of her, and I've talked about that throughout my channel, and really some, I guess you could say, high strangeness when it comes to her and these experiences that I've had. And one of them, I just got chills on my left leg. In particular, I'm actually having a memory come in. I forgot about this. I was somewhere with my friend. He was building his tiny home for a client, and he asked me to come with him. I think we were in New York. I don't even remember. It was like New York or New Jersey, but I'm pretty sure New York. Or like in the border, somewhere. And there was like a dead spot. So like when you would walk to where they were building the sauna, we couldn't use the sauna for some reason, but it was there. You would completely lose like cell service. I don't even know if I had service really anyway, but like he did, and he could not. He was like, it's like a dead zone for that type of thing. Anyway, I remember we were walking, and I think I went by myself. I don't know where he was, doing something. And I just had this like, I was having a lot of experiences, but I remember this was like a few years back before I even was really like focusing on this framework. And I just remember I like felt the energy of her template come in, and I don't remember the details at the moment, honestly. Usually I remember these things pretty well, but there was kind of like this a lot of like nature around me started reacting, like my environment, to confirm what I was being shown. And I just remember this like exchange sort of happened with my friend. Like I went and had an experience, and then he went and had an experience, and we shared them, and there was just like a lot of like when the cellular Wi-Fi signal like drops down, it's like the auric field like strengthened and amplified, and there was some sort of exchange that happened. Even though the details are kind of not coming through for some reason, which is very rare for me. I feel like usually I'm like super hyper focused on details. I feel like that in itself is a message. Like there's, these exchanges and a more fluidity to what I guess I'm calling this meta framework. And one of my inspirations, especially realizing, and I talked about this in the overflow about Helllllo Blavatsky and her relationship to birthing theosophy, and essentially theosophy being like the golden thread through different frameworks, religions, masters she met along the way, and like that golden thread that she synthesized into theosophy. So in a similar way, the way I've been feeling drawn to my own intuitive practices, deepening my own intuitive channel, assisting, others along the way, and all of the self-studying in the realm of metaphysics, the esoteric, different divination styles, really just the idea of that golden thread and synthesizing any map, really any blueprint. And so, of course, each individual, whether it's a person, again, planetary grids, however it comes through, will have its own unique synthesized golden thread or formula, like their own blend, but there's still an overarching synthesizing that's happening. So yeah, it's really I don't know if funny is the right word, but this energy that I'm in right now is so, I wonder if this is a collective energy. I keep joking that I have senioritis. I think it's because I'm leaving. This is my last few days here in Montenegro. It's been almost 2 months. And the last few weeks, maybe even longer, I've really gotten into this little routine here and micro habits and things that just, I was really into. And then, now that I'm leaving, it's I kind of have the senioritis where I'm a slower, I feel much more slowed down and focused on almost like a squirrel, I'm getting together all of my downloads that I have and preparing for leaving to my next adventure, so even if you're not someone who moves around all the time, there could still be that sort of these mini cycles within cycles of realizing where you're at with that. And yeah, it's simultaneously I feel really rejuvenated and peaceful, but then there's this other part of me that feels this restlessness. It's but they're living within me pretty peacefully. It doesn't feel like they're necessarily rivals or conflicting. It's more just allowing them both. It's paradoxical. They both just exist. And I'm okay, what am I doing in this moment? Anyway, so yeah, collectively, it feels like there is, depending where you're at with that, this potential of feeling simultaneously more embodied and peaceful than maybe at other points, 12:21 on the clock. And then also this underlying excitement, nervousness could maybe manifest a little bit as anxiety, but then you bring yourself back and be no, this is exciting, So I also, these videos of this person I never saw before. It's funny, Red Bull has been coming up in the weirdest ways. I've been seeing so many references to Red Bull, which I don't drink Red Bull, but yeah, so that could be coming up for someone. But what is their, oh, excuse me. They have some sort of motto, something about wings. And I have been seeing a lot of references to wings. And those of us who feel tapped into the idea of etheric wings, some of you could be coming back online to your etheric wings. If it has already been something you're very tapped into, it feels there's, I'm seeing shown the iridescence and the cosmic color code, I like to call it. So there could be another layer of your etheric wings in the cosmic color code spectrum that is being reactivated, reignited, whatever you would like to phrase it as. Oh, but the video. So yeah, this girl just showed up, and I guess she's sponsored by Red Bull. But she's a diver. Have any of you seen her? No, 12:22 on the timer. I've been seeing 222 so much. And she does these high dives. And in one of the videos that popped up, she slipped off of a high dive. She's I've done this a million times. and I do it perfectly all the time. And the one time I slip up like 1 inch, I didn't account for, like she has to like count her steps or something, and she slips. She was okay because she said luckily she knows how to, it's like I remember being in gymnastics as a kid, like they teach you how to fall properly. So when you do miscalculate or slip up, you still learn how to fall so that you protect yourself. And she was like, luckily I know how to do that. So even when I slip up, I knew how to fall to protect myself. So this feels very metaphoric in terms of like, one, obviously I'm glad she's okay, but she like was saying she feels like her mom is always like, oh, like you're killing me, like I can't believe you do this, it's like so hard for her mom, but she's like, it's just something I have to do. She was so graceful about it. And she was then like there was like a redemption video of the next dive that she did, and she was like, okay, I just need to like come back to my framework and come back to my steps and make sure that I'm really, I know how to do this and trust myself. Like she was basically like saying, like, even when you slip up, even if it's scary, even if you're scared when you do it, you show up anyway. And of course there's nuance to everything, right? It's funny because the guy I'm staying next to, my little neighbor, not little, but you know what I mean? We have like very little space here. So he's very close and our balconies are next to each other. And he said to me yesterday in his British accent that I need to learn how to generalize, because he's a very big generalizer. He generalizes like everything. And I'm like the opposite. I'm like, oh, it's so hard for me to generalize. I'm sure I do it and not realizing it, but like most of the time. And yeah, it's just so funny because I completely got moved to a different train of thought. It's so funny. Speaking of, I feel like my whole, like, if you look at, like an energetic stream of encoded information coming in, it was like coming in on one plane. And then all of a sudden I was like completely moved into another plane of existence. That's what it feels like. Those like, I am not calling myself a toy soldier in any way. This is just the visual I was being shown, where those like wind up toys, when they, you wind them up and they go one way, and then all of a sudden like you pick them up and wind them up and let them go another way. Like that's like the feeling. Okay, well, let's see what's going on here. The song from Ace of Base just played in my head. I saw the sign. Some of you could be seeing a lot of signs, literally. Yeah, it's for like signage, signpost, sign on the dotted line. There could be like, this has been coming through quite a bit, like contracts, soul contracts. So for some of you, literal contracts, there's this idea of like, now I'm hearing a different song. I don't have to sign my life away. What song is that? I think it's Jason Mraz, if I'm not mistaken. The Remedy. Jason Mraz. I won't worry my life away. Not today. That's funny that I heard it as I heard sign my life away. Apparently that's frequently misremembered as sign my life away, but it's worry my life away. Yeah, so this really feels like for those who are in some sort of transition, in some way, you feel like you're in between lives, for some of you, in between timelines, and or like really tuning into your own internal guidance system and like shaking up the status quo in some way. Ooh. I feel like I just really need to tune into my breath. Yeah, presence healing, pearlescent presence, that's a phrase that comes through quite often. And as I said that, I felt like my spine get taller, and some of you may feel like you are like, how do I say this? Like more aware of your own aura, and it's almost like my light flickered when I said that. You may feel like you are like lightening up, and some of you will be stepping into this. You may not be there quite yet. I don't mean this from like, oh, I'm losing weight, but that can happen. It's more like you feel like you may like appear taller than you actually are. Like there's something about, you may feel like the phrasing I'm receiving is like clicking in, even though it's so much more fluid than that. I almost said fluent. Some of you may be like fluent in multiple languages, or you're becoming fluent in a new language you're learning. There's something like that. That won't be for everyone, of course. But yeah, there's this, it's not necessarily like, oh, clicking, but that's what it feels like from like a mechanism perspective. Like you're clicked into your aura and it's like lightening up, you may start to feel more agile, or some of you again you're already like very embodied in this, where you can like see and feel the difference of the way, that you move, the way you speak, the way you eat. I don't know, there's just this way of like elongation and posture, presentation. I don't know, there's just this I feel so like being shown swans. There's like there's an elegance to this. That doesn't mean, of course, how we define, like everyone's perception of how they feel like graceful and elegant. Like some people have different aesthetics in the way it manifests. So I don't necessarily mean like one look or one way. It's just like your most like fluid way of feeling elegant, Ooh, that feels really nice. And something that also comes up quite a bit is micro shifts, micro movements. That has been really highlighted lately. And I've noticed, past versions of myself, I used to be it's so funny because sometimes I almost forget this, but like, in my 20s and different points, like I was very obsessed with like the scale, how much I weighed, learning about fad diets. Like, I don't know that I actually always stuck to them, but I was like always paying attention to certain things that like didn't feel right to me, but that's what I guess had to go through. And it was like extremes, like, okay, on Monday I'm doing this, and then I'm not doing that, and then I'm going to do, it's like so, these like declarations that usually I crashed out. Anyway, I'm sharing this because this idea of micro movements and micro shifts has just really been, I know there's like a Japanese philosophy, which I didn't know until recently. Like I had been pulling through this for quite a while, and then that came into my awareness, and I was like, I always loved a lot of Japanese like philosophy and ideologies and practices, so it doesn't surprise me. Kaizen, Kaizen. I hope I'm saying that correctly. My apologies if I am not. Yeah, what do they say? Japanese philosophies on micro shifts center on the idea of compounding micro habits rather than relying on drastic life overhauls. This approach emphasizes that tiny, sustainable 1% daily changes, which are too small to fail or require massive willpower, ultimately yield massive long-term results. Yeah, so this also just feels like, like very Seven of Pentacles in tarot, like investment, daily discipline, this sort of like, also like flow state and adaptability. Like, even though the last like few days I have been joking that I'm in the senioritis, I'll still take one or two of the things that I was doing, like oil pulling, and maybe I'm not doing it when I was doing it before, but like I'm making sure I'm still doing that at least. Like I'm keeping parts, even though my routine's about to change again, there's something also about adaptability, because at one point in my life, I think I was really into I got a little bit rigid with some of this, and being on the move every so often. I usually, at this range, it seems to be 2 months. I feel like I've been moving around every 2 months, but it was more before. It doesn't always stick to that, but it just seems to organically be about every 2 months. I have my little routines within those movements too. So there's something about adaptability, recognizing rigidity, and embodying that fluidity. So it's keeping those, again, another version of ClairCartography, keeping the golden thread that keeps you grounded and structured and stable, but also in Gene Keys, I also talk about this in the overflow. I'm actually going to read the 22nd Gene Key, Grace, because it literally will not stop coming through. Yay! Okay. So the 22nd Gene Key represents the journey from the shadow of dishonor to the Siddhi, Siddhi. If you're not familiar with the Siddhis, it's what they call the effects of the supernatural powers, if you will. I don't know if that's exactly how they phrase it, but that's what I heard in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock, right? One step at a time. It's not supposed to be something that's said that you seek, but a natural effect of that daily practice. Okay. So with the gift of graciousness acting as the bridge, it is known in Gene Key's teachings as the master key to human suffering and the ultimate spirit of grace under pressure. Yeah, and that is, I don't know if you just heard that horn outside, but this idea of being in a pressure cooker, right? It's how diamonds are made. A lot of us that are going through this pressure cooker of transmutation from carbon-based DNA into the crystalline consciousness, the lattice pattern in the silicate body that self-organizes. We're becoming a self-illuminated, self-organizing structure, those of us who are tapped into this. And so going along with these pressure states, these pressure cooker experiences of transmutation, and trusting the darkness and the evolution in the darkness, with this gift of graciousness. Okay, let's see. Does anyone remember the show Grace Under Fire? I don't know why I was just reminded of that, because Grace Under Pressure. And fire, the fire element Kundalini has been coming up. Kundalini current, electric current, inner masculine transmutation. Something that came through. Well, you know what? Something did come through on overflow about the superconductor. And I want to tap more into that, but it doesn't feel like the right time at the moment. So the shadow, the dishonor. This shadow stems from blaming others or outside circumstances for our pain, which ultimately dishonors ourselves. It can manifest as reacting defensively, suppressing emotions, or wearing a fake mask of being balanced when you are actually in turmoil. The gift, graciousness. This is the active expression of love and accountability. Graciousness goes beyond simple politeness. It is a refined attitude of deep reverence for all life. It requires, quote, owning your own stuff and treating others with dignity even when life tests your patience. Yeah. Speaking of that pressure cooker and patience, I feel like if you've gotten this far, you're probably someone who has heard patience, divine timing, more times than you can even fathom. I'm not laughing at you, by the way. This is just, I've obviously been there myself, and at this point I just laugh because, not always, but sometimes. Okay. The Siddhi, grace. Grace is the exalted state that emerges when you accept your own wounds and stop judging yourself. It is described as a quiet, I feel like I need to emphasize that even though it's the opposite. Quiet, luminous, and subtle frequency. Often referred to in this system as the energy of the, quote, great cosmic mother, bringing an end to suffering. And that's something that I've been speaking about so much. a quiet power. It usually comes through for me as gentle power and luminous, self-luminous. I even put that in my article, actually, because that comes through so strongly, which in the article I go more in detail, and I touch on this, a bit on the Patreon overflow, but the bioluminescent beings in the deep sea, I feel like I talk about them a lot because they've been such a mirror to me to help remember. And before I even started diving into, no pun intended, the deep sea and its amazing evolutions of beings, I've had quite a few of my own experiences, metaphysical experiences in dark rooms to show me and help me remember of our own inner bioluminescence. And I've shared some of them before. Maybe some of you are having these experiences. Maybe you will soon. Maybe you've had them off and on for your whole life. Whatever the key is for you. There's obviously, I believe, like each of us has our own connection to this and ways we can be shown and remember. I was also just shown crystal and glass and like some of the rainbow inclusions that you can see reflected. And something that came through the other day. Okay, so when I was back in Philly, where I'm from, within this past year, I don't remember exactly when, I was there when my mom was selling her house. My stepdad had owned that house since 1989, so there was quite a few things in there. And I was helping my mom, get organized and go through things, and we found some stacks of like kitchenware. Oh, is that how you say it? Some of it was glass and some of it was crystal. And so, one of the tests, some of you may know this, you tap it, and if it has like a dull sound, it's glass, and if it has a beautiful little ring to it, it's crystal. And I was reminded, I think it was yesterday, I had this beautiful sound come into my like high pitch frequency in my ears, and it reminded me of that sound that the crystal makes when you tap it. And I had just was looking up baccarat crystal because I had a dream showcasing crystal holding a spirit. I think it was like a Dutch spirit, meaning like a liquor, like a spirit. But of course, in the astral world, everything has multi-layered symbolism. So when I heard this pitch frequency, and then I started looking into the crystals and why the sound happens. So the distinct, clear, and sustained musical ring of crystal, often called a, quote, bell tone, is primarily, some of you could be hearing bells, is primarily due to its lead content, which gives the material a unique atomic structure and elasticity. And of course, in like crystal glassware, in that context, it doesn't strictly mean a perfectly ordered repeating atomic lattice like a diamond or a quartz. Because at a microscopic level, both glass and crystal are amorphous solids, meaning their molecules are disordered and frozen in place like a liquid. But there's still, basically what I'm being shown, again, that gradient aura is coming through. There's these different stages and phases of the alchemical process. So, and like manifestations of that. So some, even though this beautiful bell sound can come even when the crystal is not in its repeating atomic lattice, perfectly ordered, self-organizing structure like a diamond or a quartz, it still emits that sound of the high-pitched frequency. So yeah, there's something about honoring all those expressions. And I just heard the phrase letting the dust settle. yeah, there's just a portion of the article. Mind you, I'm still editing, so it may not be exactly these words, but it's the same essence. Pattern recognition and a navigation operating system is the title of the paragraph, of the section. So ClairCartography introduces a framework that can be applied to anything as a pattern recognition and theme dot connecting ability. We integrate this ability within our own inner planes to navigate ever-shifting external landscapes. As these landscapes seamlessly merge through dimensional bleeding, we ground the etheric, invoking synchronicity, alignment, a path of ease, and a new perspective on obstacles, challenges, and recurring loops. Yeah, so I wanted to weave that into this because I feel like there is this... I feel like I've met a lot of people along the way who, including myself at some point, where it's so easy to overlook some of the inner abilities that a lot of us operate on, and especially when they can be labeled as, disorders and stuff. And that's not to say there's not a real 3D version, but learning how to work with this through pattern recognition, through acceptance, and I've seen so many different variants and perspectives on specific things. I know ADHD is a really big one right now, and even though a lot of us who feel like we're getting so much information all the time, I do find that there are ways to ground these things, and it's not about making the symptoms of ADHD, I guess you could say, go away, but I feel like we can continue to evolve with these nonlinear ways of existing and still feel more grounded, and we don't have to lose things 1,000 times a day just to... What am I trying to say? If you feel I remember at different points in my life, I, if I would what am I trying to say? I feel like there are ways to, synthesize these patterns and ground some of this that's within our system so that we can be more grounded and work with it instead of it working us. I hope that makes sense. So I'm not trying to say we need to fix ourselves or anything like that, but I do feel like there are ways of, I'm seeing the MO, modus operandi, the way that we leave our signature expresses, our auric signature, auric key codes, the more that we can integrate and embody, I feel like there is more of that fluidity that manifests, that gradient aura. So there is more of an ease instead of it feeling like we're scattered. And fractalization, soul retrieval, things of that, I feel like also play a role in this. So yeah. Of course, that was one example. One example of many, many, many. There's a song that has been playing in my head, and I know I already shared it on YouTube months, maybe even a year ago. And I remember the moment it came through. I was at a car dealership with my friend while she was looking for a car. I was in South Florida. So any of these could be relevant for someone. But it's a song I, at the time, hadn't heard in I don't even know how long. I think it's Yellow Card. I don't remember the name of the song. The worst is over. You can have the best of me. But we're still young. I can't remember all the lyrics. For some reason, I hear them in my head, but it's hard for me to get it out. I think it may be called Best of Me. Oh my God, my 16-year-old self would be so pissed at me. It is Yellow Card. The starting line, not Yellow Card. I really mixed those up. Well, Yellow Card could be significant for someone, but Oh my God, the starting line. I can believe I forgot. Yeah, so funny. Anyway, best of me. This whole time, I think even in the last video, I might have said it was yellow card. Whoops. Anyway, that song has been coming through like for weeks now. Like I've just been hearing it in my head. So it feels like it's sort of like an ode to the self, you know, like coming out of these pressure periods, right? Grace under pressure, or pressure under grace. It's so delicate because we're in a time right now where it's like we're letting go of perfectionism collectively, a lot of us, and taking off the pressure to be like the best version of ourselves, you know, but it's also like living up to our fullest potential and embodying that path of ease, which sort of cultivates the best version of ourselves, you know. So lots of paradoxes. And some of you also feel like you may be connecting with someone externally where that could be a message from them to you as well, because I feel both. And it could be both for some of you. I just heard a bunch of horns go off outside when I said that. Yesterday, the year 2008 came up at least 3 to 4 times in seemingly unconnected ways. So 2008 could be relevant for someone. I'm feeling guided to look up 2008, 4141 on the timer. So I typed in 2008 significant things that year. Let's see what comes up on an AI overview. 2008 was globally defined by the onset of a severe worldwide financial crisis. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. The historic election of Barack Obama and the Beijing Summer Olympics. It was a monumental 12 months that birthed the modern Marvel cinematic universe and laid the groundwork for future digital economies. Very interesting. I also invite you, maybe, assuming you were alive in 2008, to maybe look back on that year. If you haven't already, there could be something coming to into your awareness for your attention to like reintegrate from 2008. For some of you, it could be something collective, like maybe your own, a pattern of yours is like mirroring something that was going on collectively in 2008, or maybe you're noticing patterns and you're like being guided to talk about it. There's something like this coming through. Ooh, apparently Bitcoin's genesis, the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto published the white paper introducing Bitcoin cryptocurrency to the world. Well, that surely planted quite a crazy seed. Yeah. I just felt this like aching in my left collarbone, which if you've heard me say before, for me, the collarbones generally connect to the mother lineage ancestrally. And I'm being reminded, I know with a lot of this, again, I remember when I spoke on Portal to Ascension, I think it was the Metaphysical Keys to Humanity conference. I'm not 100% sure. But the theme that came through was nuance and subtleties, which I feel like a lot of my content and channelings and transmissions are really swim in nuance and subtleties, which is so funny that yesterday my neighbor was like, you need to be more you need to generalize more. I'm like, oh, you only knew the half of it. Like, you barely even know me. Anyway, with that being said, of course, the balance of all of it is the key, but also like honoring your own self, you know, again, balance. But I bring this up because I feel like I'm redirected again, so I'll just allow that to be what it is for the moment. 37:37 on the timer. Oh, okay. I remember now. So yesterday, I had this rubber band I was using. I had to be very resourceful where I am the last few months, and I've been using this rubber band, and I'm leaving in a few days, and the rubber band broke right as the thing that I didn't need anymore for it to hold was over. It was very good timing. But it made me think of like, again, transmuting soul contracts. Some people call it cutting cords. I don't like to think of it as cutting a cord. For me, it's like a dissolving, because sometimes when we cut something, I mean, yes, you cut them, but there's also like the alchemical transmutation of dissolving is like, to me, that next octave of release, instead of, because sometimes when you cut something, like it if it doesn't like cut on its own naturally, you know, sometimes there's like an effect. Not always, but you know, that's the way it's coming through. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I feel like some of you, especially now, it's funny, the last transmission was talking about the father lineage, and now it feels like through the mother lineage, something just was released, something like the rubber band naturally fell away. And through your own transmutation process. And it feels like, I heard someone who I used to listen to a lot, I don't really listen to as much anymore, but I saw her post something about like, her delivery didn't sit well with me, but I get where she was coming from, and I feel the same way actually. It's just in a very different tone. But a lot of us who feel connected to the idea of ancestral pattern transmutation, there can be that like sort of, kind of like what the Gene Key was talking about, this like suffering that we put ourselves through and feel like we are kind of like the martyr sort of victim consciousness archetype, where it's like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And there must be a reason so many of us experience this. I really feel like it's a something from this point of evolution that has manifested, and then when we can realize it and add awareness to it and start to transmute that, right? So but you know, they say cellular, like in epigenetics, when we talk about patterns and imprints that are passed down, some people say when you clear one of those patterns, I like to call it clearing the cellular cache, that it heals the generation 7 forward, 7 backward, and the present. And there are a lot of theories about this, but of course that can easily be confused, I think, with some people then feeling like, oh, you know, I am healing this, or I am doing that, and I am waking people up. I am doing, you know, I am like forcing or acting as this, like, really, you know, what do they say? Be the change you want to see in the world. When you're clearing and transmuting and engaging in this sort of ancestral alchemy, you're clearing the field and the potentials arise, but each individual person has their own decision-making process if they want to receive that or not, you know? And I just wanted to highlight that because that's something, I feel like I talk about that quite a bit. At least I feel like I do, but maybe I don't. I don't know. But that came up and I just wanted to, emphasize that. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to check my notes to see if anything else wanted to come through. Whew. I felt like this lighting up right under the clavicle, on the left side of the chest. Right under the terminus. So the terminus, if you like ever do lymphatic drainage and you circularly open up the terminus, it's like where the drainage points are. Right? Yeah, so there's something about metaphorically and some of us literally opening up those energetic draining points for excess fluid, patterns, ways of being, and cleansing that out. I also had this vision in cloud scrying yesterday that I have been having off and on for years, where I see it seems very simple. It's like you may be seeing swans, by the way. Swans keep coming up. I know like in Indigo Angel's work and some others about planetary grids. Oh, excuse me. The swan grids, and Cygnus, the constellation Cygnus is coming through. The Oratheme, there's something about these like quote future timelines and templates of humanity. Yeah, the Oratheme are coming through so strong. Now I'm feeling like something tapping on my left shoulder. A little bit down though. Some of you could be seeing a lot of like movies or TV shows or just like animations of like, you know, the old school like angel on one side, devil on the other side. I don't know why I'm seeing that, but there was a show that came up on YouTube, Just Shoot Me. Does anyone remember that show? I literally forgot it existed, but my sister and I used to joke, like we both talk about like the classic Nina Van Horn, if you've seen it. She just like played that role so well. She's such a Nina Van Horn, that actress. But anyway, there was an episode the other day that just, I don't know why I'm being shown this, but Finch, but played by, I don't remember his real name right now, David Spade. In the show, Finch, there's like this episode where it's someone's like birthday or something. There's a bunch of gifts, and the gifts are like really, one is like a sex toy, like bag of things, and the other one's a video game, and he gets this idea to switch the cards so it looks like the person who gives him, you know, each gift would be like so surprising. And so he does the switch, and well, before he does the switch, he like thinks about it, and he's like, ooh, should I? And a little version of him as a devil pops up on his shoulder and is like, of course, like, why would you not? And then he looks over at his other shoulder, like, where's the angel? Why? And the little version of him as a devil looks up and he's like, oh, come on, you know, that wasn't even an option for you. Of course you're going to do it. I don't know why I'm being shown that. It was really funny, but like, yeah, there's some reason that's coming up. Anyway, so the masculine and feminine coming together in the clouds and kissing. And yeah, I've had this vision off and on for so many years. But again, when I was speaking in the overflow on Patreon, I was talking about a periarchy, prefix meaning both, and this idea of polarity integration. So that is coming through, but also the way that they kiss too, there's like this slow coming together, and usually like the vision will have them like sort of like dancing in the ethers essentially. So there's just this like beautiful fluidity. I feel like that's coming for a lot of us, and how that manifests in each of our own lives is probably going to come multifaceted and through different ways, you know, whether through relationship, a union of some sort, this inner union, hierogamic templates, creation, co-creation. And there's a playlist I have on YouTube, Quantum Mirror Edition. So that may go in the title of this as well somewhere. Or I'll probably tune into another transmission. Quantum Mirror Edition. So for me, Quantum Mirror Edition, I've talked about in different transmissions that I label Quantum Mirror Edition. I have in the description of the playlist channeled through to encapsulate the external reflections that become tangible and start being the source of the light. So yeah, essentially I've noticed this pattern that when we reach this next space within us in the internal planes, that it shows up externally in different ways. So, of course, collective dreaming, collective meditations, like when we go in numbers, it's like then we start to ripple out that experience. But on an individual level, what is happening internally then can show up externally if we're paying attention. So, well, it shows up either way, but the level of awareness that we put into this, of course, can amplify this experience. And I've been talking a lot about, polarity integration and next octave of embodiment, consciousness, etc. And something showed up about, I've been talking about like the mirroring, like quantum computing, and I was listening to someone speak about quantum mechanics and a quantum computer, and basically how the quantum computer works. So if you have like a regular operating system that most of us work on, it's zeros and ones, but the quantum computer integrates the 0 and 1 and works from that like quantum entanglement where it's connected. And I talk a lot about ORMUS GOLD at different points. And I do have something like an affiliate link with Blue Emerald Alchemy, who makes their ORMUS. I just used up the rest of my ORMUS that I had for a really long time. And when I can financially, I'm very excited to probably start making products with it again. But I love working with ORMUS GOLD because it's like in quantum computing, right? Like you don't need ORMUS GOLD to do this, by the way. I work with the template also of ORMUS GOLD energetically, the energetic templates. But it started showing up in my external reality after I was working with the energetic template years ago. And yeah, when we bring ourselves back into quantum communication in our own selves, when we integrate our own zeros and ones and work from that space, we're working and operating in that more, what I call the Aurora time spiral and the Aurora timelines, these ways of perceiving reality and our own body systems and body communication on a quantum level instead of from just black and white linear experiences. And of course, because we all have our own individual formula, it may look and express differently, but then of course we have that collective consciousness that in these waves of us who tune in to these similar trajectories, and timelines. Just for a little AI overview, quantum computing is an evolving technology that harnesses quantum mechanics to solve complex problems exponentially faster than classical computers. It replaces standard 0 or 1 binary bits with qubits, Q-U-B-I-T-S, which exist. I don't know why I keep hearing in my head qubits. I know it's not, it's qubits, but qubits. I'll have to look that up. Which exist in multiple states simultaneously. Superposition and link deeply with other qubits, entanglement. Yeah, and yesterday, before I even looked this up, actually, I was pulling through superposition in the overflow. I usually record YouTube first and then the Patreon overflow, but speaking of becoming nonlinear, I did it a different way unintentionally this time. How perfect for superposition to come through in that. And yeah, so multiple states simultaneously, superposition, right? So coming back into that awareness of superposition and our gradient aura, self-illumination. So yeah, obviously there's so much more to this, and I will continue to tap into the layers as they come in. But thank you. Oh, excuse me. Oh, these big releases. It feels really good. Thank you so much. I just want to see if there's any more that wanted to be pulled through before. Ooh, okay. Superposition. Unlike classical bits, a qubit can represent 0, 1, or both at the same time, giving quantum computers massive parallelism. And I talk about parallel astral experiences and remembrances quite a bit throughout my YouTube and Patreon. So I love how this is all coming together. Entanglement. Qubits can be linked so that the state of one instantly affects another, even across distances. That feels very important right now. This creates an interconnected processing network rather than isolated calculations. Right? And those of us coming back into creating community, connecting communities, collaborations, we're internally coming back into this like superposition like state. And through entanglement and nonlinear remembrance, we are connected, and then that quantum mirror is starting to reflect back and then bring us all into these reunification states. Yeah, I feel like I could keep going with this forever, but I think I'm gonna drop it here. I just paused on 10100, right? Right at the time talking about zeros and ones. Okay, just a few more things. Current developments, cloud access and parallel processing. Right, and I've been going through my own reintegration of remembering parallel possibilities and timelines, and now it's like then I'm drawn to these external developments, So organizations can access quantum processors through major cloud services, institutions like Japan. Japan's coming through a lot. Japan's QIQB are actively rolling out quantum multi-programming, allowing multiple users to run programs on the same chip simultaneously to maximize efficiency. Manufacturing hardware. Companies are pioneering proprietary ATOM level fabrication techniques to scale processors and improve coherence rates. And then there's hybrid AI integration. Leaders like AWS, IBM, and NVIDIA are integrating quantum systems with AI models to generate insights impossible to reach using classical methods alone. And it's funny because I've been talking about my use of AI as like a hybrid approach to how I'm showing up and doing things. So yeah, I really would love to hear from anyone, of any of your own dot connecting patterns or anything that unearthed through this experience, if at all, because I could sit here all day and go back and like bring through more dots that connect. But obviously that is not how this works. So yeah, I would love to hear if anything came up for you, any dots that you're connecting, like I mentioned, and feel free to comment that or anything else that comes to you. 10303 on the timer. And I've been seeing 303 a lot. You could be seeing that as well. But I did want to just end actually with something that I had written down, stream of consciousness style, and then had it reflected back to me through Gemini. Rewriting your operational code. And this was synthesizing dream themes that I was having. The color palette alone tells the story, moving from the dense, heavier lineage clearing into a more light, airy, ivory, aqua, and shimmering pearl white environment can mean that your nervous system has successfully stepped into a brand new frequency band. Frequency bands, by the way, like a specific defined range of frequencies within the electromagnetic spectrum, such as radio waves, that is allocated for particular telecommunication or broadcasting applications. Each band has a distinct upper and lower limit to ensure different wireless devices can communicate without causing interference with one another. Right, so it feels like if you've gotten to this point, there's an expansion in your frequency band, which of course then collectively, like I was speaking on the quantum level, are anchoring in that next frequency band into more awareness in our own light bodies, which then of course ripple back out into the collective. So yeah, thank you so much.